Hey guys, it's Wahima, but just call me Wah. Melanated! Welcome to my recap of Love is Blind. I know you guys didn't know that I was watching this show, but if you do follow me on Instagram, you absolutely know that I have been following this show because I have done 2 lives on Instagram about each of the segments that we were given over the 3-week period. However, I decided that because most of my audience is on YouTube, that I would just do one long recap of the season on YouTube. So settle in, get your popcorn, get your drink, your wine, your water, whatever you have, and sit down and let's discuss this show. So first, let's talk about the premise of the show. The premise of this show, Love is Blind, is basically 2 parts. It's a social experiment to see if love is blind, and then it's part like Married at First Sight. We don't meet every single person that's a part of the experiment, so I don't actually know how many people are participants, but it is, let's say, 15 guys and 15 girls, and they go on a series of, I guess, speed dates throughout the week. And each day they meet a certain amount or all of the people and they're on dates. They're in little pods where they cannot see each other, but they can hear each other. And the pods are set up with couches and a table. They each have a journal to write down the attributes and things that they find in the person that they're talking to on the other side of the wall. And I don't know how long they talk because it's not clear. I don't know if the dates are an hour or 30 minutes or what have you, but they go from pod to pod talking to different people. So that is basically what the first episode is about. Also, when they're not in the pods, they're in sort of male-female dormitories where they then sit around, drink, and talk about what they've experienced in the pods. Personally, I wish that we had gotten a little bit more of the background footage to see what actually happens in the pods and the conversations between the men and women about the men and women that they're dating. Now, we do know that this happens because in the men's side, there was this one guy who I think all of us kind of dubbed him as the counselor. He would literally go around and talk to every single guy and give them advice and tell them how to move forward when they don't know which girl to pick and to go with your heart and just be honest and all this jazz. And I really wanted to know what happened with him. It looks like he did not find a partner, but we don't know that. He could have been somebody who did find a partner, but is somewhere on the editing room floor. The next part of this experiment is after they finish talking to each other, I don't know how long they have to make a decision if they want to marry somebody, because we have Lauren and Cameron. They got engaged after 5 days, I believe, of talking to each other. So you meet at week 1 and then you're married by the end of the 6th week is what I believe it is. Leave a comment down below and correct me if you know that I'm wrong. Also, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. So the first 5 episodes that we got was basically getting to know the people. So we get to know a woman named Diamond. We get to know Jessica, Amber. We get to know Lauren, LC, Kelly, and Giannina. Gigi, as we call her, okay? We get to know about 7 women. There might be more, but honestly, it didn't hang out in my brain. And the guys that we get to meet, Kenneth, Damien, Cameron, Carlton, Mark, who else? I'm not sure at all. I've already forgotten about them. We get to see what they're saying in their confessionals about the experience. We get to see what they're saying behind the scenes in the male and female dormitories. And we also get to see what they say inside the pod. So right off the bat, we are in love with Lauren and Cameron. Oh my God. They were absolutely my favorite couple of this season. Cameron is a scientist. He's got a lot of like chill, calm energy. He's got a good, strong, thick, red beard. And then we have Lauren, beautiful smile. She's a content creator. She's in her 30s. And everybody in this experience is from Atlanta. The same way Married at First Sight does it, where everybody's from the same city. That's how they did it with this show, which makes the most sense because how are you going to get to know each other outside of the experiment if you live in different parts of the country, right? You should live in the same city. So we get to know Kelly and Kenneth. Kelly is some kind of health professional or health counselor. Basically, it sounds like she's a nutritionist or something. She helps people with health. And she's a cute, like everyday, brown-haired girl. We get to know Jessica, 34 years old, not quite sure what Jessica does, but Jessica is somebody who knows herself, knows her own mind, and is ready for love. We get to know LC, who I absolutely love. Her name was Lauren as well, but she goes by LC. And then we get to know a woman named Diamond, who is a professional basketball dancer, which I love to make fun of that because I was like, what the hell is that? But the truth is that she's basically a Laker girl, but she's not a Laker girl, you know? Giannina, who is a business owner, don't know exactly what that means, but she's from Venezuela. Her first language is Spanish, and she said that she learned English by reading books and watching TV. She's 25 years old. Amber is an ex-tank mechanic. I guess she was in the military. Those are the people that we have that we concentrate on the most, and Netflix shows us them the most. So we see a couple of budding relationships start very early on, like we do with Kelly and Kenneth and Lauren and Cameron. We also see it with Giannina and Damien, but we do see that Barnett has got a lot of chemistry with Jessica, Elsie, and Amber. And then we see that Jessica has chemistry with Mark and Barnett. So that creates a really interesting situation in the pods and outside of the pods. First of all, Jessica and Mark have a lot in common from the jump. They're both super into family. They want to raise their family Christian, and they're both from Chicago, which leads us both all to believe that, you know, this is something that can really be great. But when Jessica finds out that Mark is 24 years old, it blows her mind and she's unable to cope with it and she can't get over it, right? And then she starts to talk to a guy named Barnett, and it's obvious that Barnett is the type of person who just wants everyone to like him. Like, he's not somebody that you honestly know whether or not to take serious because he doesn't quite know what he wants. He doesn't quite understand or know what love is, but he's charismatic and personable, and he knows he can get a bunch of women to like him. So he's actually traveling between 3 women: Elsie, Jessica, and Amber. Now, Amber's personality, she's very boisterous. She has a lot to say, and I think she's just a good time. Like, when I think about Amber, I think of her as just being a good time gal. Like, I don't think of her as being anything serious. I don't know if I would go to her for any kind of advice, but she seems like a nice person, you know? A cigarette in one hand and a Bud Light in another, wearing cowboy boots. Like, that is how I imagine her all the time. This magnetic eyelash is letting me down 100%. And I'm annoyed by it. Like I said before, Lauren and Cameron end up getting engaged very quickly. And once they get engaged, they are then put together and they see each other for the first time. And Lauren is a little concerned because Cameron is white. She's never dated outside of her race, whereas Cameron loves that chocolate girl. Lauren is not Cameron's first time at the cookout. So he's really happy. She's really happy, but she also is nervous. And then they go off to Cancun to spend some couple time together. And then we have Jessica, Barnett, Mark, and Amber, and Elsie, okay? That's kind of this trifecta, or this like quadfecta, or like, is it quad? No, whatever the thing after 4 is. It's that kind of trifecta. Okay, Jessica gets along with Mark, but Mark is too young for Jessica. So then Jessica decides that she really likes Barnett because he's charismatic. Wow. That was weird that fell. I feel that Jessica is too grown to not recognize the red flags in Barnett. One day, Barnett tells Jessica that he's ready to marry her and that he, you know, is so like into her and it's great. And then the next day, she's like, so yesterday you said that you were like ready for marriage. Like, how do you feel today? And he's like, I don't feel that today. And she is so pissed that she gets up and leaves the room. And then she ends up settling for Mark. When Mark proposes to her, she ends up saying yes because she's like, this guy has liked me from the beginning and I'd be a fool to not say yes. And I was like, girl, you know what? You should have left the show at this point. And after this, Jessica is a messica, to quote Lauren. The rest of this series, no one likes Jessica because of the way she's behaving, because she doesn't want to honor her true feelings and go with how she truly feels, and she's dragging Mark along on this process. Then Barnett has the opportunity to choose either Elsie or Amber. And instead of choosing Elsie, like I wanted him to, he chooses Amber. Now, I don't think anything's technically wrong with Amber, but we end up finding later on when they go outside of the pods that Amber is $20,000 in school debt, and she didn't even graduate. He's an engineer and she's unemployed / bartender. Technically, she could honestly just pay it off in a year, but she hasn't even started paying it off. So it's gained interest, I'm pretty sure. So another couple that we have is Carlton and Diamond. Now, Carlton is not new to the reality TV game. He has been, I guess, on The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Carlton is bisexual. Carlton is a preacher's son. Carlton feels like, yes, his heart is open to every gender. But for now, for this experiment, he decided that he wants a woman because he says that when he sees himself married, he sees himself with a woman. And I think that Carlton should not have been on this show. One of my biggest pet peeves about this show is that the vetting process needs to be a little bit more deeper. And I think that they set us all up just to see beautiful people fall in love, right? They did have some folks that were in their 40s, but we didn't really watch their storylines. I don't know if they didn't get along with people, but I wish they had given us more of the older, a more diverse sort of cast, because I only saw 2 Black men. There were a lot more Black women. I don't understand why. There were no Asian people, as I saw, and there was like one woman who looked maybe like she was Jewish, but she didn't get that much airtime. So it was just a lot of like not, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just wasn't as diverse age-wise and race-wise as I wanted it to be. So anyways, back to Carlton. Now, Carlton knows that he makes good TV. When he was on a date with Amber once, he didn't like the way Amber was talking, and he quietly, like, was doing this to the camera and backed out of the room, didn't even tell her goodbye. He just decided he was over with the date, walked out of the room, went out into the hallway, and was telling everybody that the girl in this room was, like, doing that next to him. And I was just like, what a douchey trash bag thing to do. So Carlton ends up making a connection with Diamond, okay? He ends up proposing to Diamond. They end up seeing each other. It's all good. And then they go to Cancun. Now, once they go to Cancun, this is where shit gets ridiculous. All of a sudden, Carlton is acting really weird, right? He's like, really like, yeah, you gonna call me daddy and my wife's gonna do what I say. All of a sudden, I'm like, is this man Hotep? Like, what is going on with him? I don't know. He's not portraying himself to be as classy as he thinks he is. In his mind, he's a debonair, classy man who is ready for love, ready for marriage at 34 years old. He wants the family, the whole American dream, all of that. But all of a sudden, he becomes this just despicable individual sitting next to Diamond. And Diamond asks him, she calls him out on it. And she's like, yo, what's up with you? Why is your energy different? Why is your energy weird? And we find out that his energy is weird because he's bisexual and he knows he has to tell her. And he realizes that he proposed to her without telling her that he is bisexual. It doesn't make sense for a grown man who is bisexual to go on a heterosexual show. I could see if he was on a show where all genders were talking to all genders and it didn't matter, and he happened to choose to have a connection with a woman. That is one thing. But he took men out of the equation all of a sudden and decided now he wants to marry a woman. That is not fair to him, and that is not fair to her. Okay? Because if you love anyone based on their spirit or energy, you should allow yourself to find a person to marry based on their spirit and their energy. Carlton did not do that. So he's nervous. He's not feeling well. He says he's sick to his stomach because he knows he has to tell her. He doesn't know how she's going to react. So he tells her. And naturally, Diamond is taken aback, right? She reaches over, though, because she sees how upset he is, and she rubs his back, and she's like, it's okay. Like, thank you for telling me. You know, she's trying to process it and support him at the same time because she feels like she had a really deep connection with him in the pod, and that this is the person she thought she was going to marry, and she needs to, like, iron some things out. You know what I'm saying? So she says that she's not comfortable sleeping in the same room with him because, you know, she has to go through it and feel her feelings, as she is allowed to do. So they get separate rooms. The next day, they meet by the pool, and she sits next to him. He comes down. They have like positive, you know, good mornings and whatnot. And she's like, okay, so why didn't you tell me beforehand that you were bisexual? Why didn't you feel comfortable saying that to me? And he is like, it hasn't been a problem with anybody else. So, and she's like, okay, well, I mean, it's a problem for me, and it's something that I needed to know, and I just don't understand because I feel like we had such a strong connection why you wouldn't communicate that to me. And all of a sudden, Carlton, I don't know what he hears her say, but all she is saying is, why didn't you tell me, and what's going on? And he freaks out and tells her, I didn't tell you because it's never been a problem with any other woman I've dated. And I'm like, lies. And then he tries to blame it on her. So then she gets frustrated and she comes all out her wig. And she is like, well, if you feel this way, then fine. She takes off the ring and he's like, it's whatever. It's whatever. I don't care. I don't care. Whoop-de-whoop. Going back and forth at her. And she gets so frustrated that she gets up and she walks away from him. And you know, he ends up calling her a bitch. He calls her a bitch. She gets up, she walks away, and she's yelling at him as she's walking away, and then he comes for her wig. Now listen, we all know that Diamond has had the worst wig every single time they've showed her on this episode. And many people are like, girl, why didn't the other black girls that were in the room tell Diamond about her wig? Personally, I don't know enough about wigs to be telling anybody how to manage their wig. I can only tell you when it looks bad. And I can't help you. So I imagine the other girls in the room was like, well, I don't know. She had the front out. You know what I'm saying? Can you glue this down to your scalp when you have the front out? I don't even know how it works. I don't know how anybody would have helped her besides telling her to take it off and just do the natural. All of a sudden, Carlton goes from being what, I don't know. You don't do that to people. She didn't even say anything negative to you. She's asking you to understand her position and how she feels and how you kept things from her. You get upset, call her a bitch, and then start talking about her wig? Son, nah. Fuck Carlton, okay? Now, since the show aired, he has shut down his public Instagram and has moved over to a private Instagram. And was I going to request it? Absolutely not. But I did see that on his public one, he did say, not an apology directly to Diamond, but basically said that what he did was wrong. It was out of turn. He's already spoken to Diamond. He's already apologized to her. Whoop-de-whoop. It's over. But the way that Carlton behaved with Diamond was just so ridiculous. He made himself look bad. He made black men look bad. He made black bisexual men look bad. He just did it all wrong. Okay, because he's not in control of his feelings. And this is why I say that they needed to do more vetting with this show. Because if you're really trying to put people who want to be married on a show, you need to make sure that they want to be married. And that's the thing that I think that Married at First Sight does better. And I also heard that these are the same producers. I feel like Love is Blind is a mixture of some kind of MTV reality love show like Temptation Island or something mixed with Married at First Sight with a little bit of The Bachelor thrown in. And so that's why I just was like, I wish that it were a better experiment, because the experiment in itself is flawed. And if we were to get with Cameron, I think Cameron would agree, Mr. Scientist. Now we're moving on to the other couples. So the other couples that made it was Jessica ended up saying yes to Mark, even though she wasn't into him. Barnett ended up asking Amber to marry him, and she said yes. Damian and Gigi, and they said yes. And then we had Kelly and Kenneth, and they said yes. I believe those were the 4 couples. So we've got our couples, and they are now on their way to Cancun to spend some time together in a tropical island. They have no cell phones, no connection to the outside world. It's just them getting to know each other. So right off the bat, it seems like Damian and Gigi have got a lot of like passion in between them. They seem like, you know what, this is going to go well. And then they're on the deck of a boat in the middle of the ocean, and Damian makes mention of something that's going on back home that he doesn't want to have to think about. Gigi is like, no, tell me what it is, what's going on, like how can I help? You know, she's trying to be his partner in life. And Damian doesn't want to tell her. And then he gets upset at her for pushing. And she's just like, I'm just trying to understand. We're trying to get to know each other in this moment. And this is the time where you drop your walls and you tell me what's going on. So initially, I understand where Gigi is coming from, because who wants to be with a man or anyone who is unable to express themselves, who has decided that their way of managing things is to not say anything about it and then just be angry and frustrated on the inside and not ask for help. So she's trying to figure out how she can assist him. And it turns out that he doesn't know if he's going to be able to go back to his job because he already took too much time off from his work. So he doesn't know if he has a job when he gets home. And he's on this show talking about marrying somebody. And Gigi's like, okay, I understand your frustration. I understand where you're coming from, but don't worry, I'm good. I have a job. Like, so you don't have to worry about taking care of me. And he's just like, but as a man, I feel like I should have a home and hearth for you to come home to. And she's like, I understand. And, you know, they have their first fight and it looks like it's good. It looks like they have great sex. Like, you know, it looks like their love affair is something that's really great and positive. Then we have Lauren and Cameron. Lauren and Cameron are talking about the fact that Lauren is very pro-black and how they're going to have black children. And if they have sons, like what's going to be like for Cameron to raise a black son. Cameron is like, look, this is not my first time at a cookout. I do understand your trepidation. However, any child we have is going to be filled with love and a whole family. So we'll work it out as it comes. And so it seems like Cameron is very, very understanding of the fact that she's a black woman and she wants to talk about being a Black woman and not have to shy away from that. And I thought that was really great of Cameron to understand that, because some people are like, what are you talking about? Race is just a social construct, but not for Black people in the US, okay? The US is built upon racism. So it's not a social construct to us. It's the way we're treated in public. They talk about, I love Lauren because sis came out with a bonnet. Sis had her hair wrapped, you know? And she wasn't afraid to be Black with him. And when he took off his shirt and he had a lot of chest hair, she was like, oh, never seen so much chest hair. Because Black men usually typically don't have that much. If they do, it's like little taco meat. It's never like whoosh. I mean, I know they exist. I just haven't seen them. And so she's just like, well, it's not as much hair as I thought it was going to be. And they just have these moments where they're still talking about race and they're still talking about culture and family and how they can blend the two. And I find it to be very refreshing and honest. And I think that Lauren was the most open and honest about this entire situation, and I think Cameron too, than any of the other couples, honestly. So the next couple that we have is the party couple, Barnett and Amber, and they seem to be having a good ass time, sexing it up, boozing it up, living life. And then we have another couple, we have Jessica and Mark, and they're not having sex because Jessica doesn't feel the connection with Mark, even though she agreed to the proposal. And she gets drunk all the time and says things that she shouldn't say. At some point, while they're in Cancun, she takes off the ring because she says she doesn't think it's authentic, and that going into the real world, she doesn't know how everyone's going to feel about their age gap, and that she knows that she had such a great time and a growth time during her 20s, and she doesn't want to take that away from Mark. Mark is steadily telling her that he's good and that she doesn't need to worry about the age. And she's steadily pushing back and is like, little boy, you do not understand. And at some point, it's just tiresome. You know, anytime he says anything to her while she's drunk, she going ahead and takes the opportunity to misconstrue it and come back at him with attitude. Now, while they were in Cancun, he did make a comment about, hey, I know you don't want to have sex, but you need to stop demanding that that's not going to happen. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, yeah, Mark, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, if one person doesn't want to have sex, you guys are not going to have sex, period, point blank. So I don't understand why you're feeling a way about it. And you know what? Part of me feels like Mark deserves what he gets when it comes to Jessica, because he's just like, oh, I loved her from the first sound of her voice. Jessica has the most annoying voice ever. Okay? Part of me feels like he heard she was a white girl and he just really wanted a white girl. I'm gonna say it. That's how it feels. Okay? Because her voice is literally like this. Hi, Mark. I just can't do it. I can't. I don't even want to hear it. So then we have the next couple, which is Kelly and Kenneth. And they are not having sex, but it looks like they're fooling around a little bit. And Kelly looks beautiful the entire time. And Kenny is absolutely floored and excited to have her by his side. He's a good looking guy. I mean, but he is kind of boring. You know what I'm saying? I don't exactly know what he does in his life, but he's boring. I think he said he's in sales. He's not like a fun, exciting guy. He's no Barnett. You know, she's elected to not have sex, but to get to know him. And it turns out later on that the reason why Kelly doesn't want to have sex with Kenneth is because she's literally not attracted to him. She finds nothing sexual about him, even though it seems like they have been fooling around. And Kenneth even lied to the group of guys when they were talking about who's having sex and knew who's not having sex. He's like, you know what? I didn't go for a run this morning. That's all I'm saying. And I'm like, why? Because you were just hugged up under Kelly? Like, not because y'all was having sex. Part of me feels like the reason why she never wanted to have sex with him is because they probably started fooling around a bit and she realized that he was walking around with blind fingers and she was like, no, I don't want to have to teach you. You're a grown man. But then that to me is like, if you are ready for marriage, that means that you're letting go of this Western idea of being head over heels in love and having this person be your soulmate. You are more so about the practical sense of what a marriage is, which is a business arrangement between two families. Okay? If you are ready for marriage, then you not being sexually attracted to your husband has nothing to do with it. I'm sure there are plenty of people who are in arranged marriages right now who are not sexually attracted to their husband, but they make do because the other things that come along with a marriage trump that sexual attraction. And Kenny is not ugly. Why do you think you will never be attracted to him at some point? Girl, introduce toys. Introduce whatever you have to introduce into this relationship to make the sex work. Or talk to him about having an open relationship. Talk to him about staying married but having sex with men that you're sexually attracted to. See how he fares that. If he steps up to the plate and figures out what you want and gives it to you, then he's a keeper. If he doesn't, then you live your life. It just frustrates me that these couples aren't ready for marriage, really. All right, so they're in Cancun. Jessica gets drunk, says things she shouldn't say, as always, gets mad at Mark, is always upset at Mark, takes the ring off, and then it is decided they all have to go back to the real world eventually. So they all go back to the real world. and they go to see each other's homes, and they also meet each other's families. Now, it's really interesting that certain family members didn't show up for certain members, right? So Lauren's family showed up for her. Her dad gave Cameron the 3rd degree, asked him how he's gonna feel being around a bunch of Black people. Cameron's like, I'm in there like swimwear, okay? I'm chill. And Lauren is nervous because she knows her dad is very pro-Black, and you know, she gets her spirit and her looks from her mom. Her mom likes Cameron. Cameron does a little rap for her mom, which I was so embarrassed for her, but it was also really cute at the same time. Apparently Cameron was in a rap group while in college. I understand now Cameron's confidence. Cameron is such a cool, laid-back guy, and he was giving me a lot of BD energy. Like, he was like, look, I already got my shit together. You just have to come onto this side, and my arms are open for you. And Lauren was the one that was like, I don't know. She's like, but what I do know is that you won't be using my toothbrush, okay? I'm down for sharing a lot of things, but not a toothbrush, and that's nasty. And he's like, really? And she's like, Cameron, you shared a toothbrush? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, nah, that's not for me. That's not for me, okay? And so it turns out that the couples are all going to be in one compound, like one apartment complex, while they are getting to know each other on the outside, okay? So they often meet up in the rec room and have like conversations or parties or fun time in the rec room, right? So they're still in the same space. So it's really nice for the couples to have each other to lean on, to be able to talk to each other. And they were also together in Cancun as well. So the couples, because they've all dated each other, right? That's another weird thing about it, is that they've all dated each other. I mean, they haven't been physical, but they've gone on dates with each other. So they do know a little bit about each other and the partners that they're with, right? Interesting social experiment. Back to Cameron and Lauren. Cameron and Lauren go to Lauren's apartment, and Lauren is talking about her space. She's a content creator, not sure what kind of content she creates. I tried to look for her, but I only found her on Instagram, and she takes a lot of great pictures. She has her cute little apartment. She has her studio set up with a camera and a backdrop, and I'm just like so envious. I want to have my own space so bad so that I can just like create. Also don't want to work. Also want Cameron to marry me so I could just be his housewife, so I could do what I want to do. Okay. So Lauren is worried about giving up her space. You know, she's been in 2 relationships, but they've all been long distance and none of them have met her family. And I'm just like, girl, I feel you. The idea of giving up my space is really, really hard because I'm used to being alone, and I like being alone because I'm an introvert. You know, truthfully, I am. I mean, I'm not hardcore introvert, girl. If you see me in public, please say hi and I will say hi to you. I'm not going to be weird. She just is like really worried about that. Then we go to Cameron's whole house. Cameron got a whole house ready for a whole family to move in, okay? He's got a weed whacker on his veranda outside of his bedroom, which is fine. But Cameron is ready to have his wife move in, and he is holding her throughout every single room in this house. He cannot stop touching her. The entire time he is holding onto Lauren. And I'm just like, it would be a little bit too much for me because, again, I've never been in a relationship as a super single. So having somebody like constantly touch me, I'd be like, we can touch, but we gotta touch all the time. Dang. And so I'm just excited. We don't get to meet Cameron's family because Cameron is from Maine. So I don't think his family lives in Atlanta, but we don't get to meet them. We don't know if she talks to them, but she might have off camera. So then it's time for her to tell her bestie. She tells her bestie at dinner, I'm getting married. Will you be my bridesmaids? And the bestie's like, what? You, what? And the bestie's like, okay. It's almost like she didn't tell anybody in her life like what she was going off to do. I feel like nobody really told their family what they were going off to do. It's so weird. That's it for Cameron and Lauren. Let's move on to Barnett and Amber. Barnett's really worried when he takes Amber to his house. There's dog hair literally everywhere. It is a bachelor pattern. It isn't bad and it needs a woman's touch. While there, we find out that she has a lot of debt, Amber, and that she doesn't live to work, but she works to live. She is right now couch surfing, so she doesn't really have a place to live per se. She is just kind of a free spirit. Barnett has to take all that in. He's an engineer. He works on construction sites often. So he works a lot. And so while he's working, she's just planning the wedding. Like really, she literally does nothing all day but that, which, you know, God bless her. So they go to meet her family and he's like, I was worried that she was going to think my house was shitty. And then we get to her family's house, definitely in the rougher part of town. So they meet her family. The mother tries to give him the rundown. His name is actually Matt. We find out in this episode. She just wanted to make sure that Amber is taken care of because that is the love of her life. Her kids are the loves of her life and she wants to make sure that they're good. And Matt/Barnett makes sure to tell her that they will be fine. Then we go to Barnett's family and Barnett's family is looking at Amber like, why'd you bring this hillbilly to our house? And I'm just like, y'all don't look that foo-foo to be looking down on this Bud Light drinking bitch. Like, don't go to Amber like that. I was feeling a little ways. I was like, we know Amber, might be a little WT, but she ain't a hillbilly, you feel me? And the way they were coming at her and the way he was worried about the way they would judge her was a little too much for me. She will fight you in a bar. You know what I'm saying? She will get drunk and break a bottle over your head, but she good peoples. So then we have his mother who had a mustache. She shaved it for their wedding, but she had a mustache. I peeped it and I don't care what anybody say. His brother pulls him aside and Barnett is the cutest one in his family. I honestly was like, is this man adopted? Because he does not look like any of these people. His brother was like, you don't understand what marriage is. It's about a give and take. It's about giving everything up to do for that person. Like, marriage is really hard. And I'm like, has Barnett's brother been through something? Because the way he's talking about marriage is like all of the terrible parts of it. But maybe he knows a little bit more about Barnett and his temperament than we do. So he's really trying to break it down for Barnett to be like, hey, this is what you are getting yourself into. Are you sure? So then we're going to go to Giannina and Damien. Now, there is chaos in Loveland for these two. They have been fighting. She tells him that the sex isn't good for her. She's like, you ever notice how when you say this is the best sex I've ever had, I don't return the compliment? And I was just like, wow. I know you're the younger party, but you're going to have to show him what you want. And he's like, basically, you do too much yelling. You get angry too quick. And she's like, you never let me speak. You never let me finish my sentence. And they're just always arguing. And it's because they have two different temperaments. I feel like Damien is from the type of family that just pushes down emotions and doesn't want to talk about anything. Don't show your emotions. It comes time for them to meet her family. Her family comes and is basically like, you guys are fine together, but I think you need more time. Giannina is messed up because her parents got divorced and her stepfather and her mom were there and so was her dad. So she had 3 grown people supporting her through this process. And they were just like, we don't see it for you right now. We might see it for you in the future. And Damien, I think, low-key agrees. Then it's time to meet Damien's family, and Damien's family backs out at the last minute. This hurts Giannina's feelings because Damien has told her that his parents said to him, don't bring home any reality TV whore. So they think she's a reality TV whore. And this is the family that Damien has come from. And if I were Giannina, I wouldn't want to be in this family either. He's also talking about the fact that she says GD too much and he asks her not to say it. And it took him a long time to ask her because he feels like every time they go to talk, it's going to turn into an argument and he just doesn't want to argue with her. She gets at him for being on his phone every time she's trying to talk to him, yet he's literally trying to talk to her and she picks up her phone to check it. And they're in public, so they don't freak out. But she ends up getting up and kissing him across the table because she realizes that she's being a hypocrite in that point. But every time they're on camera, they are fighting. And it is so frustrating because they're both not listening to each other. I think Damien's not listening to her and thinks that she has too much emotion and is doing too much in the same way that I feel like Colt felt about Larissa, where everything she did was like, oh, you're a firecracker, you're being loud, you're being aggressive, you're being this. When really, they're not being any of those things. That's just the way they know how to express themselves. And he's from a dry as toast family who doesn't emote, doesn't talk about their feelings, and just passes judgment and just stays silent. And that's not going to work together, especially you have the age difference and the maturity difference. So then we're going to move on to Mark and Jessica, which is a roller coaster of ridiculousness. I mean, it's one day she's cool with it and she's going to give it an opportunity and she's going to really put the ring back on and try to like find the love that she came to find and go through the social experiment. And the next minute she can't handle it. She talks to his family. She talks to her friends. Everyone is okay with their age but her. The age really, really bothers her. She goes to see his house with his roommates. She talks about his room. She makes fun of like his book that he has on his counter, talking about that's your college book. And he's like, no, it's my fitness book. She talks about the fact that she wouldn't date him because of his career, the fact that he's a personal trainer or a fitness coach, and the fact that it's just everything about Mark besides his actual personality and the way they get along offends Jessica to the point where she's always drinking. And the thing is though, I'm not against women or people who drink a glass of wine here and there. I'm not against people who drink at all. I'm not here to judge anybody because I don't drink, so I don't know like what it's like to be able to just go to the store and buy something that calms you down. Now I do, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what that's like, but like when she fed that dog the wine, it was really gross. I'm going all over the place. I hope you've already watched this show. If you haven't watched the show, then I'm sorry. But like, she just doesn't want to give this a real chance, okay? They get back to her house. It's all put together. It's all designed by a designer or herself and whoever. Everything matches. And she's just like, well, we got to talk about the real world and how it's going to be. And, you know, meeting your family. You're going to meet my friends. He doesn't actually meet her friends. She goes to meet her friends and tells her friends about him. And they're just all for it. Everybody is for this relationship except for Jessica. The big things with Jessica is that every time she sees Barnett, she's pissed. And she's still in love with him. She wants to be with Barnett, and she's mad that Barnett chose a scraggly ex-tank mechanic named Amber over a professional woman like her. She's blonde, she's got blue eyes, she's more successful. Why would Barnett choose this muddy brown-haired, almost WT Bud Light drinking bitch over her? She can't handle it. And every time she is around them, she says something. She says something to Barnett. I can't believe you chose Amber. I never would have thought you would have chose a girl like her. And when they're like, what do you mean by that? She's like, I don't know. And I'm basically like, you do know, you judgy ass bitch. And every time she's with Amber, she's like, I love you so much. Like, I don't want Barnett. I love Mark. Mark is the love of my life, and I'm so happy that I found Mark. But I just didn't think Barnett would be into you. And that's nothing to do with you. It's everything to do with him. He's such a fuckboy. He literally told me that he loved me and he would marry me. And then the next day, he's like, no. That is how she is every single time. When she was in Cancun and saw Barnett and Amber together. When they were back at the apartments and she saw Barnett and Amber together. At the bachelorette party, she was in Amber's face talking about, I love you. I don't want your man. And then kisses Amber on the lips. And then Amber is outside with her confessionals, drunk. Like, I'm marrying my best friend. I love him so much and I'm so happy. And if Jessica tries to take my man, I'm gonna fight her and fuck her face up and kill her and bury her. She not taking my man. I'm so drunk. Jessica she made me embarrassed to be a 30-something-year-old woman. You are supposed to be over that behavior. That is 20-year-old behavior. That's when you don't know what you want. You don't know. No, you do know what you want. You do know who you are, but you're not brave enough to just say it. She should not have said yes to being engaged to Mark, period, because she wanted Barnett. And the fact is that she knew Barnett wasn't shit and that Barnett wasn't actually going to be happy. Listen, let me tell you why Barnett wasn't going to be happy with Jessica. Because Jessica would have wanted him to do more in life, to be more ambitious, to be more whatever. And Amber is going to accept him as he is because he is already doing better than her. They have fun. They get along. I feel like Jessica would try to pull him to fancy situations, put him in a tux, do all these things that he's not going to want to do. And Amber's not going to ask any of that from him. She's going to stay home and take care of them kids and them dogs. That's it. She might bartend on the side. She might figure out how to do some hair in the backyard. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of industrial bitch Amber is. But Jessica is not that. And Barnett didn't want that. And Jessica couldn't handle it. I think marriage looks like different things for different people, and I think that you need to have that conversation with that person before you decide to marry them. What does that look like? What level of commitment are you interested in having? This experiment is fun to watch, but I don't know that I would actually do it because of how it played out. Also, now getting to the last episode, I don't know what the contract says. I don't know when you're allowed to get out of the relationship. Because to me, it felt like some of these couples didn't need to get to the altar to say no in front of their families. They could have just said no beforehand. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know at what point is the point of no return. I feel like Jessica didn't ask any of her friends to be on the show because at some point she realized she wasn't going to marry Mark. And so she just was like, yeah, you guys don't really need to be involved. I'll just do it on my own. I'll be fine. So skip to their wedding days. All right. So there was some shockers. They get to the altar. Giannina says yes. Damien says no. Embarrasses the shit out of Giannina. She ends up walking off and running. She's the runner that we see in the previews. And her mother ends up running after her. Her mother, it looks great. You know what I'm saying? It just looks great. And her mother's like, this is so embarrassing for you. I'm so sorry. It should have been you that said no and him that said yes. That's the way it's supposed to be. It's a very classic, like, I don't know, because I've been told that before too. Wahima, you should always look for somebody who likes you more than you like them. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I do that? I want to like them just as much as they like me. Everyone's embarrassed and Damien's upset and is like crying and he wants to talk to her. And shout out to my coworker Carmen, who pointed out that this was staged somewhat because sometimes she had her veil on, sometimes she didn't have her veil on throughout their entire wedding ceremony. So I'm like, oh, so maybe this wasn't as dramatic and as like unheard of. You know what I'm saying? Like there was something that happened and it was staged. So how much of this is staged and how much of this is scripted? Who knows? Damien says that he's going to always love Giannina. They have a scene where after everything is cleaned up and the audience leaves, that they're sitting down talking to each other about what happened and why they didn't get married and why Damien said no. And Damien is trying to explain it to her. Giannina interrupts him and then just gets up and walks away. And at that point, I'm just like, girl, then you're not ready. You're definitely not ready. And maybe that has something to do with the trauma of her parents' divorce. Look, I'm going to continue to push you away, push you away, push you away, push you away. And then when I finally feel like I pushed you away enough and you've come back that you're the person, I'm going to settle into that. But listen, who has the time to keep being pushed away? Like how long does that person allow you to do these things to them and them keep coming back? And Damien said, look, this was too long. It shouldn't be this hard. I'm not doing it. So the next wedding we have is Amber and Barnett. And I honestly didn't know what was going to happen with this one. One of the audience members says that they've been sitting there for an hour and a half. I have a feeling to do it's due to the cameras and moving around and all that stuff. Like when you film something, it takes so much longer than you think it does. It really does. So I could see that happening. So there was a little bit of buildup, maybe with Barnett, because Barnett got cold feet and wouldn't talk to Amber the night before. So she didn't know what was going to happen. And he gets there and he's drinking a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Getting ready for the occasion. His mother is there. His father is there. His mother has shaved her beard. It's great. Amber is being given away by her mother and her mother's like, are you sure you want to do this? And Amber's like, Mom, what are you talking about? So finally they pull back the curtains. Barnett is standing there and they both say, I do. And they have a good little wedding reception. My question is if they have a wedding reception, right, and there's food and cake, what happened to all the food and cake from the people who said no? I'm actually happy for Amber and Barnett. I think that they, at the end of the day, really probably will get along well as long as he just is resigned to the fact that his wife is not going to help him out financially. So the next couple that we're going to talk about is Kenny and Kelly. All right, so Kenny and Kelly. Kelly is still on the fence. She doesn't know what she wants to do. Her sister's really trying to convince her that Kenneth is a good guy and to not give up on him. But she's like, I don't feel the spark. I'm not infatuated with him as I was with my ex. And her sister's like, but your ex was trash. You're like, he really was. Their families get along well. Kenny's mother is a beautiful Southern woman. His dad, he comes from a good stock of people. Their family get along really well. And I really thought it was great to know that her parents got together very quickly after getting to a first meeting, and his parents got together very quickly after meeting. So the fact that these two are getting married very quickly after meeting is like Providence. It's like family tradition at this point. And the sister is there to support her. I mean, she cried when the girl tried on the wedding dress. She was crying all throughout the whole process, and Kelly was not. Okay, Kelly was in hair and makeup. Like, I really don't know what I want to do. You know, I'm going to just do my best. I do love Kenneth, but we're going to see what happens and how I feel, you know? So they get out there and, Kenneth has a lot of great things to say, and he's a statesman. I mean, he really is. He's a statesman. He's a stand-up guy. And he says, I do, and Kelly says, I don't. And she says, I love you, but I can't. And then she walks away, and he's taken aback because he didn't expect that at all. And neither did we. And then he addresses the audience and he's like, thank you guys so much for coming. This was an experiment and I want to thank you so much for being a part of it and blah, blah, blah. And he walks off and he's devastated and her family is devastated. His family is devastated. Kelly just let a bunch of people down. And I honestly think she let herself down. She's not going to find what she wants. She wasn't ready for marriage. And she even says that she's 32 years old or 33 years old and she should really know what she wants. And she doesn't. And I'm just like, how could you let that go? How could you let that go? I really don't get it. You really weren't ready for marriage. Just because you weren't attracted to him, you had friend zoned him, which is your fault. You shouldn't have friend zoned him. You shouldn't have said yes and then friend zoned him. You should have made every effort to try to make it work. You guys should have been having sex while you were in Cancun to try to make the shit work. To get him to get on your level or whatever. So that was sad. So then the next couple we have is Lauren and Cameron. And this is the most highly anticipated situation. Okay? Everyone is rooting for Lauren and Cameron. And Lauren is still like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. Her mother comes there in a banging dress. She is mother of the bride, okay? And then her father comes out. He sees her in her dress and he starts to cry. I mean, her family did what every family should have done. And that's how you know a family supports their child. Hallelujah. Amen. Okay? I would hope my family would do the same thing for me. So her bridesmaids are there and backtrack. Amber has a lot of black friends, okay? She had 2 black bridesmaids in her wedding party. And I was like, okay, Amber, okay, you can come to the cookout. Anyways, back to Lauren. Lauren looks beautiful. She's got like a 20s like feather in her hair. It's like amazing, okay? Makeup is on point. Her bridesmaids are on point. Her bridesmaids all come down the aisle. We see them walk down and then we see her father give her away and the tears and who gives this woman away? I do. Oh, girl, it was great. It was great. And Cameron's mother is there. We see his mother and she's really supportive of him and his friends are there. And, you know, he doesn't look like a scientist, but his friends surely do. And, you know, he got a good little edge up, you know what I'm saying? It's like, who took a razor to that for you? I love Cameron. I love him. And so they get to the altar and they both say yes. And we're all so happy for them. We are so happy for them. We are rooting for them. We love them. We love their love. We love her honesty. We love her candidness. We love the fact that she's saying how she feels and how this process is crazy and rushed and how she's going to be giving up her freedom and her solitude, but she's willing to do it for this man who loves her and has all of his ducks in a row and is ready for her. And it's just like beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. I'm so happy for her. All right, so the last couple that we're going to talk about is Jessica and Mark. No surprise, Jessica came there with a nobody. She didn't have no bridesmaids. Mark had all the family there, all the bridesmaids. His mother walked him down the aisle. He says he didn't know how this was going to turn out, but him and his homeboys had a good time before. They were in their suits. They took pictures. You know what I'm saying? Like, Mark was like, look, this is my wedding day. I'm having a good time. I don't know if my bride's going to say yes, but hey, I'm here. I'm on this show and I'm acting like it. Jessica was so not into it that she didn't even go get her nails redone. And I'm going to insert a picture here if I can of her broken chipped nail on her wedding day. Mama was wearing black flats as well. We didn't see until she walked away and had to lift up her dress. She was wearing a dress that wasn't even that cute. She had tried on cuter dresses. Like, girl, she didn't want to be there. And she said no to Mark. And Mark was pretending to be heartbroken, but he knew there was a 75-25% chance that she was going to say no. His mother was sad. His dad had the same expression that he's had the entire time, which is... And Mark is just like, you know, it is what it is. We have a scene of him sitting on the altar after everybody goes. And he's like, yeah, I didn't know, you know, love of my life. And Jessica this, Jessica that. But I'm just like, Mark, you knew. But from the moment that she got mad at you, she got mad at him one drunk night. She was talking about some conversation she was having with one of the girls. And he's like, well, they're second best compared to you. And she was like, don't talk about my friend that way. She's number one. And he's like, babe, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying compared to you, she's second best. I'm giving you a compliment. And she's like, no, yeah, just don't fucking say that. We're all women and we all love each other and blah, 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 blah. I think Burnett's the sexiest man in the world. She has commitment issues. He tried to set up the apartment like a pod just to make her more comfortable and to fall in love with him again. Mark did everything he could. And he knew he was on TV. And so he really made the best of this situation. And I'm like, congratulations, Mark. You can be on any reality TV at the end of the day. Because you saw this ship sinking and you jumped on and you made the best of it. And it was the best TV because of you. Thank you, Mark. Jessica just looked like a crazy idiot. Lauren and Mark have done a lot of press on this show. Like, they were the Love is Blind representatives. And I wasn't mad at it. They both know how to talk to a camera. They both did a really good job. I'm sure the editors actually loved them because they probably gave the most energy and the most interesting comments. Lauren really did. All All right, you guys, so I did love Love is Blind. I wish that it were a little bit more realistic than what it is. Fuck Carlton. Diamond has a better wig now, so all is well. All right, let's have a kiki and a conversation down in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of this show. Did you love it? Are you going to be here for season 2? I hope season 2, they do more vetting and they give us more information about the pre-part, the pods and the conversations and the backstage stuff so that we can see how this social experiment works and then maybe elongate it. Maybe not 6 weeks, maybe have it 9 weeks or 8 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share on any social media platform you want. Thanks for watching the whole video, girl. I know this was long. All right, remember to be you, be true, and find your place. Bye. Hop to it. Don't be late, hop to it. Better make it today, hop to it. Don't be late, hop, hey. Make it all the way, why you? Hey, why not? Better make it today. I'm gonna give you 10 points if you know what I'm talking about.